Welcome back to day 2 of the QPL Stage 1 Finals, and with the conclusion of that previous matchup, the round of 16 is over, and gentlemen, every Quake fan's dream is coming true right now. Let's bring up the brackets, because we're moving into the quarterfinals portion of the upper bracket, and it has some doozies. I mean, the next 4 matches, k1llsen versus Base, which we're about to see now, Dehang versus Razy, Chain versus Wenger, and Rafa versus Cypher. We were talking about it earlier, just before we went on air, and said every single one of these could be a finals in some Quake alternate timeline, and that is pretty exciting to be going into for the next couple of hours here. Welcome back to the desk, both Jackie and Lethal. Gentlemen, we've got k1llsen versus Base coming up, but looking at those brackets, what are you excited for?
I mean, it's all so tantalizing, but I've got to go straight to the top once again. Rafa Cypher, for me, is going to be sick. I think that is a historic clash of 2 fantastic players, right? Like, that's got history to it.
Yeah, I don't want to say the same, but I have to agree with Jackie. You know, Rafa versus Cypher, you know, we living in 2010 again. Like, it's going to be an absolute carnage and mayhem between those 2 players. Chain versus Wenger is very good as well, because with the amount of improvement that Chain has made over the last couple of months, what is Wenger going to do? Like, you know, he knows how much improvements he's made. I'm sure he studied him a lot leading up to this tournament. So that would be great stuff. But our next match versus k1llsen and Base, that should be absolutely phenomenal.
Well, k1llsen versus Base is up on the chopping block right now. One of these players will advance on. The other, of course, will be dropped down to the lower bracket. And then in the second half of the day, we're going to be seeing most of those lower bracket matches play out, where someone will stay alive and the other, unfortunately, will be sent home. Their tournament life officially over. But let's talk about this one. k1llsen, who in the 2 matches that we have seen during the Stage 1 Finals has been playing pretty good. Like, not necessarily the up and down k1llsen that we have been seeing throughout the 13 weeks of Stage 1. You know, I think that he's looking pretty good. But what are your thoughts on what we've seen out of k1llsen so far?
I think it's been sick. Like, honestly, the rail's been really good. That was one of the big talking points that we had for k1llsen. If k1llsen was going to show up this tournament, and he's come out swinging, the confidence has certainly been there as well. And we've had those big vocal reactions from him. The face cams have been a treat, PGL. We do thank you for that. But it's sick to see, right? Because at least you can see him being hyped up at the right times as well. It's not disheartened k1llsen. It's k1llsen playing with his emotions, but in a way that works for him. He's always been a very vocal player, and seeing him actually be able to make that work for once again, it is beautiful.
Yeah, look at that though. Last time we played Base, it was 3-0 in favor of Base. k1llsen is a beast, but somehow Base can tame him in certain areas. He's the only player who I've noticed who plays quite defensively, who can kind of control the tempo of the game. You saw k1llsen play Dewey, and Dewey just could not handle him. He just always in his face, not given any room to breathe or any opportunity. But Base plays a lot more methodical and is able to control what k1llsen does. But will it do it again? That was quite a while ago. That was at least 2 months ago. So we'll have to see if Base can do it again, or if k1llsen can get his revenge.
Yeah, I mean, Base has been looking good himself, at least in the 1 match that we've seen so far. This morning, he dropped Zanaku down to the lower bracket. He played the Base style, the one that we're used to seeing out of him. And I have to agree with both of you, is that, you know, looking at those results earlier in the season, or in the stage, that 0-3 in which he lost versus Base, you know, it just sets up an interesting scenario, right? Because k1llsen has to kind of adapt and figure out how his style can fit into a winning strategy versus Base. And I do agree. I think there's some frustration, some difficulty there for k1llsen. So I think that's the big obstacle in order to be overcome here, because those 2 play styles definitely clash.
It's like, you know, when you get 2 cats that see each other for the first time and they're on each other's turf, the backs go up, they look a bit annoyed. That's kind of how it feels whenever these 2 go head to head. They're both like ready for action, will put on a hell of a show, but you could almost see that there is, you know, there's a bit more put into it. There's a bit more thought, there's a bit more fight that comes out from either one of them, as it is a bit of a feud. And I think that feud favors Base a lot. Base has been one of the dark horses for me in every single one of the stage finals we've had. It always feels like there is a chance he could win these stage finals because of his unique style of play, and also for the fact that he's a very talented individual. So if he brings that out today, I think k1llsen's in for a run for his money.
Base has only lost one series, one throughout the entire stage, and that's a formidable feat considering how strong the EU side of the Pro League is. And he saw from there, I think he lost 2-1 to Razy, but he only lost by one frag in the final map, and it's just absurd how much of a high level consistency Base is shown. But we know what Base is like, you know, it's not that he's got a passive playstyle, it's just counter aggressive and will only fight on his terms and has great item control, always contest every single one if he can. Real nuisance for anyone to play against. The question is, can k1llsen force his style into Base, or will Base just control it again?
Well, k1llsen, a former champion, Base, a potential champion. I think a lot of people just waiting for it. They are about to clash, but first let's take a look at the picks and bans, because undoubtedly it will give us a little bit of insight, and here you have it. Molten Falls, Blood Covenant, and Awoken will be the maps on the table.
Okay, immediately Blood Covenant to me looks like it should be pretty tasty. Doom versus Athena. Base's Athena, I think it's one of those that's really underrated. There's a lot of players we talk about that have sick Athena moves. Base is so good at using it, man. Like, if he wants to engage into a fight, watch out if he's got grapples, because he will ruin your life.
Yeah, in terms of the map picks, k1llsen made the right move and the right decisions. His best maps, sorry, in terms of Base, his best maps are Molten Falls and Ruins. k1llsen took out Ruins straight away. But Base, he took out quite to keep, just due to the fact that, not just that k1llsen's very good at it, but it's very hard to keep your distance against someone so aggressive. You may have the heavy machine gun to do some damage, but if they're in your face on spawn, even before you get any of the weapons in your arsenal, it can be very tough. And with k1llsen going for Blood Covenant, that's understandable, because his best maps during this stage have been Blood Covenant and sometimes Tower of Koth. Not 100% about that, but it's kind of from what I've seen. But Base has noticed that because he banned that as the next ban before Awoken will be the last and final map. But wouldn't be surprised if this went to a free mapper.
I would not be surprised either, especially because we are now into the quarterfinals. Of course, winning here keeps your tournament life that much safer, because you still have the opportunity to drop down to the lower bracket, but no one wants that. Both of these players will be fighting for their lives, setting themselves up for potentially that upper bracket finals and ultimately the grand finals. Everyone who is in the quarterfinals completely capable of potentially being a champion, and that's what's making this stage 1 final so exciting. $100,000 on the line, a brand new belt, which is sitting right between Jackie and I. There's a force field though that we're not, I can't see I don't know, weird portal technology. It's always been weird in Quake. But anyway, gentlemen, Jackie and Lethal, enjoy this matchup. I'll be watching from the sidelines. This is your first quarterfinals matchup. I'll be back afterwards.
Oh, thank you so much, Sweet. It's always lovely. He hands the baton over to us. He trusts us. I don't know why he trusts us. I don't know why anyone does. But
I don't.
I can tell you this, Lethal. I'm excited, mate. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. This is a matchup we've seen many times. I think we've had the privilege of casting this game a couple of times in the past as well. So this should actually be sick. Based off what we've seen, coming into it here, though, I've got to give all my stock to Base. I feel like he does lock this down.
Yeah, it's just a matter of if Base can control the tempo. This is going to be the talking point throughout the entire course of potentially all three of his maps. It's going to be a real treat. Both these players, complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of play styles. You know, we've got Base, likes to be counter-aggressive, fights on his terms, wants to, you know, initiate the fight only when he has to. Always keeps his distance, has good range. He knows that. k1llsen knows that as well. But the problem is with that range, we know how good k1llsen is with the rail. His track and aim is phenomenal. k1llsen needs to show that extreme aggression, but still, this is the problem. He needs to be cautious on what Base is going to be up to. And for Molten Falls, it is one of Base's better maps. And I've seen k1llsen losing it quite a few times in the Pro League, especially during this stage. But can Base take it again? I can't see it's going to be a 3-0 like we saw in stage 1, because k1llsen has made some huge improvements leading into this event.
No, I think most likely we're looking at a 2-1 split no matter what happens. That's probably the reasonable way of saying this goes down, but there is a chance. I think if it's a 2-0 though, it will be a 2-0 in favour of Base, honestly. Based off what we got with a map veto here coming out strong, completely agree with you. Molten is a map that he's good at. He is very talented at. It works into his playstyle to waste time, just leave you feeling like you have no opportunity to get into the game. We're getting into the game because we are ready to start this series. k1llsen versus Base. Tell your friends about this one. Tweet it out. Hashtag Quake Pro League. Bring some ruckus, as this one's going to be coming at you raw. No trivia, Harry.
Yeah, we're not going to muck about indeed. k1llsen with the saw lag will have the mobility to try and catch up if he is behind in terms of scoreline. Delayed the mega very heavily, which means both these players will be contesting the heavy. The depending on the situation of these next fights and how much damage they both take. k1llsen hasn't got a rail, so Base will be keeping his distance. Takes out the first totem, very good. Some good rockets, but Base gets that first rail. k1llsen has the map advantage in terms of height. Gets the heavy, and now he's got to try and go for that mega. He won't go for it, but he'll at least try and do some damage whilst Base goes for it. Just waiting for it. Oh, it's just teetering on the edge. It comes through. Nice damage from the rocket, but k1llsen is going to back away. k1llsen. Trying to decide when he wants to try and approach that mega. It's only going to be up in the next couple of seconds. Good first rocket though, 57 damage. Another great rail from k1llsen. This could be his opportunity to try and catch Base off guard. But in the end, it's k1llsen who's the one who absorbed that rail shot. Heavy coming up in the next 7 seconds. We'll see what he can do here. Just patiently waiting for Base. This is kind of the tempo we was expecting. k1llsen still trying to play quite aggressively. Base just doing a great job, just being in the right spot at the right time, listening out for those audio cues. We all know that near that mega spawn, underneath top mid, it's a great spot to hear all the audio cues. But Heavy is coming up in the next 12 seconds. It's k1llsen just patiently waiting, finding tri-bolt shots to see if he's gone past on that rail. Base walking to see if k1llsen's coming around behind him, which he won't be. k1llsen's got good map control, holding that height advantage, gets the Heavy uncontested. Base is just biding his time, waiting to see if he can at least try and make some kind of chip damage on the approach, finds another totem, and the overstack won't be coming up anytime soon.
Drop down as well. LG pulled out. So a lightning introduction. Quite a shocking way to make his play. And Base, because of it, has the recoil to save face and keep himself alive. Beautiful rail as well. Finesse on that one from k1llsen as he turns the corner. The rocket barrage coming down, but he's taking a lot of LG. Whoa! The snapshot rail from Base. That is balmy. The fact he's been able to hit that whilst making his adjustment to also get himself the heavy is just despicable. That's utterly disgusting. Dropping back down though, k1llsen going to put himself into a good spot. He should be able to trade this and put us back into a 1-to-1 split. He was ready for the flick on the rail as well, but doesn't land it.
He's doing his best to try and recover. No light. Only on 72 HP. This is k1llsen's chance to equalise the score. Heavy is up. k1llsen decides to prioritise that instead. He's waiting for him to go up the lift. Gets him. Good first rail. But Base still needs to be careful. Nowhere near the stack. Gets the second one. Good stuff from him. Looking for the 3 for 3. Doesn't get it. But has a totem in his back pocket if k1llsen does try to push into Base. Still, Base is doing a great job. k1llsen's had most of the stack this game. In terms of item control, let's have a look. He's already had 9 items. The Base is 5. But still, the chip damage and the range game is looking good for Base.
Nearly 4 minutes into this one. It's the way it normally goes. The vintage storyline. Base 1 frag up. He'll squirrel that away. He'll find a nice area where the dirt is a little bit softer. You can get that frag tucked in just above the surface layer, Harry, so it stays nice and healthy throughout the long winter, because he is going to be hibernating here, trying to waste as much time as possible. But he finds himself with an opportunity to do a little bit more damage onto k1llsen. Peeks out with a rocket, slowly backpedals, hits him for a nice bit of hefty damage. And again, sets his focus on trying to get some major items to work with. k1llsen is coming in hot, though. And he's actually forced him off. Can't stand around and wait for Mega to spawn in. He needs to give himself some time to work with.
When you're against a k1llsen, your job is to keep on your toes and make sure the totems don't get out of control. And he's done exactly that. Base hasn't had any kind of overstack at all. And some great shots there from k1llsen. 2 for 2 there for the rails. Looking for the third. Not going to happen yet, but is he going to flank around and contest this mega whilst Base is waiting for it? Still got a decent enough stack to fight. There's not anymore. 37 HP. Base needs to get away here. Puts the totem down. Just give him a little bit of HP to absorb any more rails coming from k1llsen. But Base is just doing a great job just dodging and weaving, trying to get away from k1llsen. And k1llsen's just trying to figure out a way to just keep him at bay, just trap him into the corner. But Base hasn't given him that opening yet.
And this is a standard POS for Base to play in as well. The amount of times we've seen him hold here on Molten, literally just listen out for audio cues because of the placement he's in. You get so much info. Ooh. Backup rail. Good use of the totem as well, but it's not going to save him. k1llsen goes aggro. Gets himself a nice kill, putting it back 1-1. If he chains together a second, this could be huge. Winning out on this engagement is critical for success, and that's the catalyst for k1llsen to get into the game. 1 frag up, 6 minutes in, 4 minutes to go on Molten, and there's a 1 frag lead, this time in favor of the German. Trying to convert that into a 2-kill lead. Good use. Weapon prioritization works well with the rocket to rail combination, but Base actually gets away with more stack.
We discussed this in the pre-game. Base needs to control the tempo. And to be honest, he hasn't, but how can he when all the item control is going in favor of k1llsen? But Base does have the stack advantage, so the ball is in his court. He needs to make something happen. Still got 3.5 minutes left. How is Base going to approach k1llsen? The first rail comes in, good chip damage. Not going to go for the second, but we'll leave a totem there to feed himself some information. If k1llsen does pass through those hourglass, it looks like he won't be. Looking to see where Base is. He is still there. More chip damage. But it doesn't matter. Base has got the mega. He can still fight this, but from which direction?
k1llsen not wanting to look silly here in the 1v1s. But it's certainly looking quite ill with some of the shots he's landing from the rail. Spots out the totems as well to take down the potential for the pocket heals, and that chain rail is big. The fact he's actually landing these one after another, using his rockets as well to send himself around the corner, gets ahead of the rocket from Base, but it's an awkward encounter that he can't win out on by the skin of his teeth. Base backstabs his way out, tries to run away, hit with the aerial rail, as he's got the high ground, and he'll shut him down.
Great stuff from k1llsen, but Base does get the opening rail. He needs to make something happen here. Another rail from Base. Will he get another one? No, he won't. k1llsen was railable. That was such an important frag if he got that. Good stuff from k1llsen, getting the health bubble first to make sure he doesn't get railed for the heavy. But Base hasn't got the stack to fight this. He needs to back off for now. Pick up some lights if he can. k1llsen is waiting patiently, so he should. 2 minutes and 10 left on the clock. Can he actually be able to do this? The only problem is for Base is that k1llsen has the mobility to get away when he needs to. Good rails again, trading, but he's going straight through. Misses the first one, but he is railable to both far. But k1llsen just playing it a little bit safe, but Base has gone round. He just noticed him there. As he passed through the telly, he's going to go back for him to see what he's going to do. He's left the totem there for Kitty, goes through the telly. A few LG shots come through. Nothing too much here, but Base is running out of time. Needs to get something done.
Oh, mate! When the German man with a size 13 shoes walks in with a railgun and puts it in your face, you're not going to have a good time. And that's how Base feels right now. 3 frags down on Molten, a map that he's normally an absolute deviant on when it comes to just squirreling away kills and being able to waste time. But when you're getting slapped about time and time again by k1llsen, just looking oh so rambunctious, there's not much that can be done unless you try and put your rail in the 1v1s, and he's hitting them. The close encounter's working well, but the rockets are pulled out, and again, Base is squished.
There's literally nothing Base can do. 1 minute left on the clock, and as a k1llsen, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's a tall order. It's not going to happen. And the rails from k1llsen, I'm not surprised. Anytime you get some kind of stack, you just can't do anything with it. 24 items on k1llsen. 25 now. Just had the item game the entire map. Takes him out anyway for his troubles. 6-1 in favor of k1llsen. It looked like a completely different game. We said Base needs to control the tempo. He hasn't. Just letting him get away with murder throughout most of this map.
He's just had the timing. He's had the aggression. And normally it's pretty crazy, right? Because even when you see players that can adopt that quick style of Quake and actually instigate fights, Base is still able to slow them down too much and make it uncomfortable for them to be able to do so. Whereas at the minute, Base is the one that's looked uncomfortable for a large majority of Molten. k1llsen's just ran away with this one. Also helps that he's just slaughtering him in all of the 1v1s when it comes to the actual railgun use.
You win.
There we go. GG from 2 players. k1llsen taking that first map of the series. I don't think it's what we expected. It was Base's pick. But you have to see from there, you see the items, like 25, 26 items taken, just letting him take everything. The worst bit was he didn't really contest all of them. Sometimes the heavy, once k1llsen's dropped down for it, but even then, not much damage was done. So basically to try and step things up a little bit and at least contest a bit better, because k1llsen before, he couldn't release his style and establish map presence against base, because base was always there waiting for him constantly. But this time around, k1llsen just didn't care. He goes, I'm going to play my game, my time. I don't care how and what style you're going to play. And it just looks fantastic and just great stuff. And if he continues this could be a 2-0 series, which none of us did predict.
Oh, not at all. If he goes on to actually shut this down, I mean, it would be pretty crazy. I was just enjoying the base cam. Oh, man. Well, you know, here's the crazy thing, Harry, right? You know, normally when you've got base, you combo it with treble, but at the minute it feels like it's only trouble for base with the way the game's going. The series starting off to a lackluster opening for him. He looks a bit frustrated, and rightly so. k1llsen was just able to abuse him on Molten. Can that maintain throughout the rest of the series? What are you thinking about our second map here, Lethal?
Well, the way k1llsen's railing at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me. I think he hit in the 60s in terms of percentage of the rails, and he fired a lot of shots as well. Just had great angles, was very patient, and a mix of style for k1llsen. And as we can see, we can have a look. Yes, it was in the 60s. 63% rail from k1llsen, 43% LG. And on base's side, he fired a few more shots, got 51%, but it just couldn't do anything with it. But that's his job, though. You know, if you're going to give away the items constantly, you have to do that chip damage. His range game was good, but there's so many times. Like, how many times did k1llsen push through at some odd angles and managed to just speed through and clean him up? He did that on so many occasions. He's clearly studied base's play on Molten and where he likes to go, and just made him feel uncomfortable throughout the entire course of the first map. But this second one should be a doozy.
Yeah, it did. It did look like he was uncomfortable. And that's not normally something we say too much. Base tends to put that effect on other people, right? Like he is a bit of a boa constrictor. He tries to take away as many items from you as possible, make it so you have no map control, so you feel uncomfortable stepping out of your comfort zone. Whereas it looked like that was basically put on him. k1llsen was just playing really hyper tempo when he needed to, was hitting a lot of his shots as well. So any small pixel piece, any little bits of leg, a bit of ankle at times, Harry, that was being shown by base, he was just getting rails into it. And that doesn't help. It just means you have a bit of a dead leg.
He literally does, yeah. That's probably the best analogy you could think of, because what else can you say? Like, you know, his tracing was good. Everything he was doing was just magnificent. You know, the speed and mobility he was abusing of the saw lag, making sure that, okay, if base does fight in his terms and gets the first shot, well, if he does, it's going to be very difficult, because at the speed he's going to go past him, he's going to have him every single time. Look at that, 63% rail. Again, we have to keep speaking about this, because he's called k1llsen for a reason, and it's meant to be base playing a range game. And I said it earlier, but during that first map, the only problem is, if base does play that range game, he's going to have to somehow out-aim k1llsen, and we didn't really see that too often.
Well, talking a lot about his rails. Is he going to be like the underground? Will he be coming in on time, or is he going to be late for the second map and delay us, taking us to a third, Harry? That's the big question. Only time will tell, as it looks like we are starting to find our way into Blood Covenant. Second map in the series here. Blood Covenant, again, I feel like in terms of territory for k1llsen, he likes a bit of Blood Covenant. He's good on it. He's flexed the muscles multiple times. Molten needed to be won by base, really, if there was the potential for him to actually come out swinging. But the added edge is, of course, this is where we see base as Athena. It is against the Doomslayer of k1llsen, so mobility and the double jump being there means that it's not going to be the biggest sort of stark contrast in terms of momentum to getting out of fights, but it's still going to be an added caveat that will make it harder for k1llsen.
Yeah, we are going to start off with base. Like I said, with that Doomslayer, with the double jump, a lot easier to go from rockets to rail or trying to corner off your opponent rather than rocket jumping, saving a little bit of HP. Base misses the opening rail. Drops down to see if he can catch k1llsen. Managed to catch him a little bit with the 35 damage, and k1llsen is the one with the slightest of stack disadvantages, but Base is waiting to see if he pops through. Sadly for him, he had the rockets out, and k1llsen's already on the warpath. Knows, but he's just sitting there above the HMG at the telly. It's another rail. Great stuff. He needs to keep on the pressure, though. And it looks like k1llsen's coming all the way back for Base, but I don't think it's going to help. Will he be able to get the heavy? He does. He does manage to get the heavy. If he took him down then, would have taken down k1llsen, get the opening frag, and get the heavy to his name. That could have been huge for Base, but unluckily for him, he misses it.
God. It was the biggest stalemate between the both of them. You could just see the HP dropping and base being dropped off the ledge as well, but he can't get past the corner in time. Couldn't tuck himself in. He's a little bit too thick. His delicious booty will be tapped there by k1llsen as the Doomslayer comes in swinging. He wants the 2-0, and he wants to do it in fashion as well. The aggression on display. Beautiful LG use, had the angle, and gets himself 2 frags already coming in clean.
That was a statement. k1llsen forcing his approach, saying that we're playing my style. We're not going to let you get away with absolute murder. k1llsen now. This is the thing with the double jump. You can just go back and forth so quickly, and there's no, rocket jumping from the audio cues. He'll hear the jump, but it just might be too little too late, even though the Athena has the verticality. That was a great rocket there. Nice chunk of damage. Will he get the rail? Yes, he does. Base is just can't do anything, can't make anything happen. He's running out of ideas. He needs a game plan. He needs to try and contest his items better, like I said before. But he has, again, another rail. Is he going to go for another one? No, the LG fight, surely. Yeah, k1llsen is going to take this and increases his lead.
God damn, 3-0 already. Making the grind far harder for base. It was the dream scenario on the Athena. If he could get himself a couple of frags up, he could have just wasted so much time with the grapples, farming up the hourglasses. Being on the Doom as well, it's not as easy for you to deny those pickups because you're not using your active ability anywhere near as much. But he is certainly being active when it comes to just swinging out, licking him up, rail after rail, tri-bolt as well. Another weapon that he's incredibly proficient with, and it gets a little bit of love. The flick this time, not as clutch. He gets hit, has to use the Mega to keep himself alive. Stack certainly favoring base. He's still 3 kills down. We're not even at the 3-minute mark as well, Harry. So the fact this map's been so explosive is pretty wild.
Yeah, base just doesn't seem to be able to get anything going. k1llsen just doesn't care. He's just pushing straight through, just saying this is my map, this is my series. Consistently having a height advantage throughout most of his games, especially with the map possession. Fires a few rockets, doesn't get any damage done, but good attempt at trying to contest that Mega. But now this is base's opportunity. This is his window to make something happen. Heavy's coming up in the next 5 seconds. Once he's got that, he then needs to figure out how he wants to take down k1llsen and how to get his first frag. It's going to be very difficult because he's just hitting everything from no matter what angle finds him, but k1llsen's already done the damage. So now both on even stack. Wilson, again, another rail. Won't be able to get the Mega, but has contested it very well. 2 for 2. Will he get the third? He won't. But base still getting his items now, finally. But it's not doing anything with him because every time he grabs one, k1llsen is just railing him every single time. Look at this. Base stack is so weak after all that item control for the last 90 seconds.
So jammy right now with the way he's playing. But making it look so calculated. Very, very clean. Slow stuff as well as he shifts his way up. Pulls out the rail. Beautiful 90 being pulled out. As the angle will unlock. Doesn't overcommit, so doesn't go into the predictive shot there from base. Waiting for the rockets as well. At this point, it looks like k1llsen. He's booted up Gmod. He's playing a bit of Death Run, just running the gauntlet and wasting time. Using base's strategy against him. Whenever there is a chance to get locked back into a bit of white-collar boxing, of course he'll take that with both arms. The HMG pulled out here, but he's not actually able to do anywhere near enough damage. Both of them are quite low, though, so there's no point lurking his way around. Instead, fall back, grab the Mega, have the bigger stack going into the next fight. Base round the corner with the use of the grapple. It gets him in, but it doesn't get him a kill. And it doesn't give him any more time either, Harry. And there's 5 minutes left here.
5 minutes.
Looking at the stats, k1llsen 76% with the rail, 42% with the LG. Damage 1868 to base's 868, exactly 1,000 more. That's huge during this first half of Blood Covenant. But k1llsen has to give up the Mega. Heavy will be coming up in the next 15 seconds. Every single time base gets an item, he must be thinking to himself, what's the point? I'll just get railed every single time without fail. It's coming straight through. LG's looking good. Will base get cleaned up? That was an absurd rail there from k1llsen. Now in the lead, 4-0. 80% rail here, Jack. Madness.
k1llsen dropping 80% rail against such a tiny champion when it comes to hitbox. It's absolutely ridiculous. Finally here, he should fall. Oh, he nearly actually got the flick off. That would have been 5-0 up with a hell of a rail, but he doesn't get it. Base gets into the game, but Base really needs to get into the game soon. 4 minutes left on the clock on this one. The grapple. Oh, he's trying to play it like Scorpion, but he's the one getting stung by the piercer of the big German. Punches him in the face. The boxing champion of Berlin.
He sure is indeed. Absolutely backhanded Base in that LG room. Base looking for the trade. k1llsen waiting patiently to see if he does drop. Doesn't matter. Gets the light. Gets the health bubble. What does k1llsen need to do now? The great thing about Doomslayer on this map, he's got the mobility with the double jump to get away. You're hoping that Base, depending on how many grapple hooks he has in his back pocket. Looking good though. k1llsen, not the best of stacks. Base is very, very healthy, but he needs to push it in now. He's only got 3 minutes left on the clock. If he gets this frag, he could. Yes, he does. Second frag on the board for Base. Looking for that opening rail in the LG area. Doesn't get it, but it's shown him that, yes, I'm going for that mega, but now need to try and get these lights and then force out another fight against k1llsen.
Scary prospect for Base. k1llsen's coming in hot. He gets this kill. It could be the start to peeling back the layers of the k1llsen onion. But at the minute, he's just not sharp enough. And this is such a drastic turnaround from the last time these two faced off. Back in the regular season, it was a 3-0 for Base. At the minute when it matters most in the bracket play here, the playoffs of the stage finals, this is where k1llsen has turned up massively, and he could get himself a 2-0 if he locks this down. Base has to come back in with a kill soon if he wants to make the comeback a potential reality. He will grab the heavy as it spawns in. He knows exactly where k1llsen is. The rockets are going up. k1llsen has the high ground, dips back round through the rail as well, and he can just scarper. He can cheese it, burn time off the clock because there isn't much of it remaining.
Tries to go for the mega, but he's flying high from the grapple hook as well as the LGs, only on 28 HP. k1llsen, got 1 minute and 50 left on the clock. He can play passive now, he has the time, but it depends on how good k1llsen's rotations are, reacting to those audio cues. Base, looking to see if he's doing early preparation for that mega. Base will get it. What's k1llsen planning on doing? He's going to play a little bit more passive than usual. Playing the range game. Looking for that chip damage. He's done it all game. He's trying to find where he could be, but k1llsen's just doing a great job making sure that he can't be found, not giving away too much information. He's got to try and find 3 frags here, Jack, but this could be the third if he gets it right. Realise that it's actually to his left. Gets a rail. Not railable now after picking up that light. But Base has to push it. He needs to take some risks. If he doesn't, that was so important. He needed to hit that rail here, Jack. And looks like k1llsen might just be able to get away here.
If this series was supposed to be the home turf for Base, then all your base now belongs to us. And by us, I mean k1llsen, as he's just wrecked him. Comes in with a clean 2-0. No possibility now for Base to bring the game back. It's done. He's just trying as hard as he can to at least make the scoreline a bit closer towards the end here. But we're over the 9-minute and 30 mark. It's done, it's dusted. k1llsen with a ridiculous 2-0 series. That is a hell of a matchup.
The fact that he fired 25 shots and against a target with the hitbox of Athena, 72%, that's unreal. Base must have just been scratching and thinking, like, what else can I do? Like, again, just increasing that percentage, 73. Base did try his high out towards the second half, but k1llsen's defense at the end, the last few minutes, have just been ridiculous. Looking at 3 for 3 in the end, just to make matters worse, adding salt to the wound. And there we have it, Jack. 2-0 in favor of k1llsen. Completely different to the 3-0 we saw with Base back at stage 1 in the Pro League.
k1llsen, man, he is looking like he's back on QuakeCon form, at least for now, finals form, as he stays in the upper bracket. That's the huge caveat that he comes away with from this, right? It means that Base now has a much harder run, a lot longer of a slog throughout the lower bracket, whereas k1llsen, it's an easier time. It's a lot nicer to keep himself up in the upper bracket. And someone that's always up when it comes to HSM's sexiest men of the year, of course, is DJ Wheat, always number 1. And he'll be joining us back on the lovely desk.
Wow, thank you for that. I'm speechless. k1llsen 75% rail. You know, I just have to say, right? Like, I mentioned earlier, like, k1llsen is a champion, right? In Quake Champions, he is a champion. And sometimes we live so much in the moment, right? And k1llsen, he would even admit that he hasn't posted the results that he expected to get during the 13 weeks of Stage 1 finals. But you know what? None of that actually matters when it comes to the Stage 1 finals that we are here today, right? It just matters how you play, if you can beat your opponent, and making it through the bracket. And k1llsen is on fire right now. And I mean, I just have to imagine the smile that is on his face right now, because whatever he needed for confidence and motivation and some momentum, like, he's got it. That was a huge win versus base, sending base down. And everyone in the lower bracket should now be, you know, they should be scared shitless, because base is down there now too. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered whether it was k1llsen or whether it was base, but that was just such an exciting matchup to watch k1llsen do exactly what he needed to do, which was make base play his game and not let base play his game, right? I'm just was really, really impressed. I did think, like you two, that it was going to go 2-1. So this is a huge win for k1llsen.
Oh, it's massive, right? Like, at this point, he's got to be over the moon with the way he played it, and rightly so, because he didn't just beat base, he destroyed base. He used his playstyle against him, he absolutely rinsed him, didn't let him get comfortable at all, and that's not something we're used to seeing. Base normally makes other players feel uncomfortable, whereas he didn't look like he was having a great time on either of those maps, was never able to stretch his legs, and k1llsen's just thrashed him. It's great form to see, but you are right, Wheat. That's the scary prospect, right? Is you've got base, a very big fish in a tiny pond now in the lower bracket.
Like I said in the pre-show, long as k1llsen controls the pace and the tempo and contests those items early, he should be fine. And he did it with ease. The fact that base, don't get me wrong, commiserations to him, he actually did a lot better job going for those items and making sure he gets them early. And the problem is, but you know, if you're going to get a mega and then get railed for 90 every single time, you just get to a point where you think to yourself, what's the point? Like, I might as well not even bother. I might as well just like rotate round and let him go for it first, and I'll do the same. But it's just absurd. He must have just been so frustrated, thinking, I've got to make it. Oh, I've just been hit for 90. Been hit for 90. I think it happened like 5 or 6 times. It must have been so frustrating for him.
Yeah. Look, man, you know, hitting anything above a 50 is pretty great, right? Especially when you're dealing with players of this caliber. To achieve 75 as a player like base, I mean, imagine being on the receiving end of that. Just
as a light champion as well.
Just
stupid.
Right, exactly. Well, our first quarterfinal did not disappoint, unless you are a base fan. He's going to be dropped down to the lower bracket. k1llsen advances. That means he is set up to potentially play the winner of Chain versus Wenger, which is going to be coming up in just a moment, but not right away, because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, it's going to be Dahang versus Razy as the quarterfinals continue here for the QPL Stage 1 finals. Jackie and Lethal, thank you for your commentary during that match. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, the quarterfinals continue right here. Don't go away.